We're told constantly that friendships are the secret sauce to a happy life, perhaps even more so as we get older. But let me ask you this, especially if you're navigating your 70s or beyond, does the thought of maintaining a large social circle, with all its demands and obligations, sometimes feel heavy? What if the conventional wisdom needs a second look? What if the real key to profound peace, deep contentment, and genuine fulfillment in this chapter isn't found in clinging to every connection, but in bravely, wisely letting some go? As we journey through life, our priorities naturally evolve. The energy we once poured into fitting in, impressing others, and keeping up appearances often gives way to a desire for something quieter, more authentic. That constant need for external validation starts to fade. Could it be that needing fewer friends after 70 isn't a sign of decline, but a mark of wisdom? An embrace of a hard-earned independence? Today, we're diving into this potentially controversial idea, exploring reason number 1. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. Think back over the decades. Remember the subtle, and sometimes not so subtle pressures of your younger years? The need to fit in, to impress colleagues, to keep up appearances, to earn your place in social circles, perhaps even within your own family. So much energy went into managing perceptions, saying the right things, being the right kind of person for others. It was often exhausting, wasn't it? Constantly seeking approval, measuring your worth by external standards. But here's the beautiful truth about reaching your 70s and beyond. You've arrived. You have lived, loved, learned, overcome, and contributed in countless ways. You've built a legacy, whether it's through family, work, community, or simply the quiet strength of your character. The relentless need to prove your worth has, for many, blessedly faded. You know who you are, strengths, quirks, and all. You've likely weathered enough storms to understand what truly matters and what's merely noise. At this stage, the idea of spending precious energy trying to impress people or maintain friendships that demand constant effort without giving back genuine warmth or support feels unnecessary. You've outgrown that chapter. The validation you need now comes not from applause or acceptance into a group, but from your own inner sense of self, your own integrity. Think of Harold, who spent 40 years climbing the corporate ladder, attending endless functions, nurturing professional connections. When he retired, many of those friendships evaporated. Reason 2, peace becomes more valuable than constant socializing. Remember when a packed weekend felt like a sign of a life well lived? Back-to-back events, endless phone calls, a constant stream of interaction. It might have felt exhilarating then. But as we journey further into life, something often shifts. The quiet call of peace begins to sound more appealing than the buzz of constant conversation. Think about the energy required for socializing. Not just the deep, meaningful connections, but the surface-level chatter, the obligatory gatherings, the navigating of group dynamics, sometimes even dealing with gossip or complaints. It can be draining. Margaret, at 74, found this to be profoundly true. Her days used to be filled with coffee dates, book clubs, and community meetings. But over time, she noticed the joy fading, replaced by a sense of obligation. Some friends only called to complain, others seemed to thrive on drama. The effort required to engage felt heavier than the reward. Slowly, she began to make changes. She started saying no more often, not out of bitterness, but out of a newfound respect for her own peace. She chose quiet mornings with a book over draining lunches. She walked in nature more, read more, simply rested more, and most importantly, she began to truly enjoy her own company. She discovered that the peace she cultivated in solitude, protecting your peace, choosing stillness over social noise, isn't selfish. It's an act of self-care, a recognition that your well-being matters more than fulfilling every social expectation. You begin to understand that not every friendship brings peace, not every phone call needs returning, and not every gathering truly nourishes your soul. Choosing peace becomes a powerful act of self-love. Reason 3. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. Let's be honest, relationships, even friendships, can sometimes bring disappointment. Over a lifetime, we've all experienced friends who weren't there when we needed them, connections that faded, or relationships that simply required more energy than they gave back. There might have been misunderstandings, unmet expectations, or simply the slow drift that time can bring. When you're younger, you might have more tolerance for this, more energy to invest in trying to fix things or justify the imbalance. You might cling to friendships out of habit, history, or a fear of being alone. But with age comes a certain clarity, a painful but necessary wisdom about human nature and the dynamics of relationships. You start to recognize patterns. You see more clearly which connections are reciprocal and uplifting and which ones consistently leave you feeling drained or let down. Think of William, 78, who spent decades nurturing friendships, always being the one to remember birthdays, send messages, initiate plans. Slowly, he noticed the effort wasn't being returned. Calls went unanswered. Conversations became one-sided. For years, he made excuses for them. But one day, he stopped asking himself what he did wrong and started asking why he was still investing energy in connections that offered so little back. He didn't become bitter, but he did become more selective. He gently distanced himself from the relationships that felt like obligations or sources of recurring disappointment. He found peace not by replacing those friendships, but simply by releasing the expectation and the effort. Choosing to cultivate a smaller circle of truly supportive, reciprocal friendships, or even finding contentment in fewer connections overall, dramatically reduces the potential for disappointment. It's not about closing yourself off, it's about protecting your heart and your energy. It's about quality over quantity. It means choosing clarity and investing in the few who truly care, instead of holding on to the many who perhaps never really did. You owe no one your time, your attention, or your heart, especially not those who consistently disappeared when you needed them most. Fewer expectations lead, quite simply, to fewer letdowns. Reason number 4, your time becomes more precious with age. When you're young, time often feels infinite, stretching out endlessly before you. There seems to be ample time for everything, for chasing every opportunity, for pleasing everyone, for investing in countless activities and relationships, even those that aren't deeply fulfilling. You spend time freely, perhaps even carelessly, because there always seems to be more. But as the years accumulate, a profound shift occurs. You become acutely aware that time is not an infinite resource. Each hour, each day, each season feels more precious, more valuable. This isn't a morbid thought, but a clarifying one. It brings into sharp focus how you truly want to spend the time you have left. Suddenly, spending an afternoon engaged in forced chatter, attending an event out of guilt, or maintaining a friendship purely out of habit feels like a significant waste of something invaluable. Richard, in his early 80s, used to be the life of the party, always saying yes to every invitation. But over time, he realized these constant social demands were draining him, leaving little time for his passions: gardening, reading history, quiet contemplation. He started to feel the weight of those yeses. One day, he consciously decided to stop. He began choosing silence over small talk, a good book over forced interactions, peace over pleasing others. He discovered the profound freedom that comes from reclaiming his time. In that stillness, he found not this stage of life grants you the permission, no, the right, to be fiercely protective of your time. You start to feel time differently, not as something to spend, but as something to invest, to cherish, to protect. Every hour matters more because you realize you can never get it back. So ask yourself the next time an obligation arises that doesn't truly resonate: is this how I want to spend my precious, finite time? Because by now, you've earned the right to say no without guilt, and yes only to what makes your soul feel genuinely alive. If these ideas about reclaiming your time, finding peace, and living authentically in your later years are resonating with you, especially if you're navigating your 60s, 70s, and beyond, this channel is dedicated to exploring these very themes. We delve into the wisdom, challenges, and joys of aging with intention. Consider subscribing by clicking that button below. You'll find more content designed to support and inspire you on this unique and valuable journey. We believe there's so much richness to uncover in this chapter, and we'd love for you to be part of our community. Reason 5. True companionship comes from within. One of the greatest, yet often overlooked gifts of aging is the deepening relationship we can cultivate with ourselves. For decades, we might have looked outwards for validation, entertainment, and companionship. We filled our lives with people, in workplaces, family gatherings, social circles, partly because we were perhaps less comfortable with our own solitary company. But think about the vast reservoir of experience, knowledge, memory, and wisdom you now hold within you. You've spent decades getting to know yourself, understanding your own rhythms, preferences, and inner landscape. As external distractions and demands lessen, there's an opportunity to turn inwards and discover the richness that resides there. True companionship, you might find, doesn't always require another person in the room. It can be found in quiet reflection, in pursuing a long-held interest, in reading, in nature, in simply being comfortably and peacefully with your own thoughts. Eleanor, 76, spent years filling her calendar after her husband passed away, terrified of being alone. Lunches, calls, visits, she tried desperately to stay connected, but she often felt tired and unfulfilled until she stopped. She started taking herself for walks, reading books in cafes alone, sitting in silence without feeling the need to fill it. And she realized something powerful. This isn't to say that connections with others aren't valuable, but the desperate need for them often diminishes when you realize your own inner world is a source of profound company. You've spent a lifetime becoming who you are. Now is the time to truly enjoy that person's company. The beauty is, when you enjoy your own company, you naturally attract others who respect your space and connect with you on a deeper, more authentic level. People who appreciate your peace, your pace, your true self. So, if you've been worrying that fewer friends means you're missing something, remember this: you are already whole. Reason 6. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. Perhaps the most powerful reason of all is this: letting go creates space. Life, especially in our earlier decades, can feel like an accumulation of responsibilities, possessions, relationships, expectations, even outdated versions of ourselves. We hold on to things out of guilt, fear, habit, or a sense that we should. But after 70, one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is the permission to release what no longer serves you. This is the culmination of all the previous points. Letting go of friendships that feel forced or draining isn't failure, it's wisdom in action. Letting go of James, in his late 70s, used to believe that staying socially active was the key to aging well. He filled his schedule relentlessly, catching up with people he no longer felt connected to, attending events that drained him. He was staying busy, but he realized it wasn't because it brought him joy, but because he was afraid of what might happen if he didn't, afraid of being forgotten, afraid of the quiet. One day, he paused and made a conscious choice. He stopped chasing what no longer felt meaningful. He stopped showing up out of habit and started showing up for himself. And in releasing the weight of those obligations, he found something priceless: freedom. Freedom to spend his days in nature, to focus on his health, to enjoy the stillness of his own company, and most importantly, freedom to live on his terms, not someone else's. Letting go doesn't mean shutting the world out. It means curating your life. It means creating space, physical, mental, and emotional space, for what truly lifts you up, for what nourishes your soul, for the activities, the few chosen connections, and the inner peace that make this stage of life potentially the most fulfilling chapter yet. When you release what's weighing you down, you make room for what truly matters. So, the idea that you need fewer friends after 70 isn't about loneliness or isolation. It's about evolution. It's about recognizing that your priorities, your energy levels, and your definition of fulfillment have likely changed. It's about embracing the freedom to choose quality over quantity, peace over performance, and authentic connection, starting with yourself over obligation. It's about honoring the wisdom you've gained and crafting a life that feels light, meaningful, and true to who you are today. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a quiet moment to reflect. Which part of this message spoke to you the most? Have you found yourself letting go of friendships or obligations that no longer serve you? Have you discovered a new sense of peace or freedom in your own company? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story could be incredibly helpful and validating for others on this journey. Reading your comments truly gives us great motivation and encouragement to continue creating content like this. If you found this video helpful or thought-provoking, please give it a like, share it with someone who might benefit, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more insights on navigating life after 60 and 70 with wisdom and joy. Thank you so much for watching, for reflecting, and for being part of this conversation. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. Live well, live freely.